The galaxy had been silent for decades. Or rather, silenced. Where once stars twinkled with the promise of freedom and exploration, now only shadows reigned. The Overlord's fleets, vast, cold, and merciless, hung like vultures over entire star systems. Their warships blotted out suns, their dreadnoughts carrying the weight of unchallenged power. Planets that once buzzed with vibrant life were reduced to husks, their skies heavy with ash and despair. The Overlord's iron grip crushed any spark of rebellion before it could ignite. Entire civilizations bowed, not out of respect, but out of paralyzing fear. And yet, whispers stirred among the ruins, stories told in hushed voices of a weapon lost. To time, one so powerful it could tear apart the fabric of the Overlord's might. A weapon forged by a race long forgotten, or so it seemed. But those tales were dismissed by most as myth, desperate hope in the face of hopelessness. On the bridge of the Overlord, Dreadnought Dominus, Admiral Varku stood rigid, eyes fixed on, the holographic display swirling before him. The calm expanse of space was disrupted by a single blip, a tiny, unassuming vessel slipping through the Overlord's sensor grid. "This signature is unlike anything we've cataloged," Varku muttered, fingers twitching over his console. His voice was low, but the unease it carried spread quickly through the bridge. "Unknown vessel, size comparable to a battleship. Origin unknown. Approaching the Kralis outpost." Varku's mind raced. The Kralis system was a critical fortress, a linchpin in their control over this sector. To lose it would be a blow that rippled through their entire domain. "Alert the fleet. Prepare for engagement. Do not underestimate the unknown," he ordered, though deep down he wondered if anyone had ever underestimated the threat of the humans. The humans, a forgotten species, dismissed as primitive and insignificant when the Overlords first claimed the stars. Centuries ago, they had been contained on a backwater world called Earth, left to their own devices as the Overlords expanded unchecked. But now something was different. The tiny vessel, sleek and unlike any Overlord design, slipped silently into orbit around the Kralis' homeworld. It made no aggressive moves, no demands, only held its position like a challenge etched in steel and defiance. Varku's comm officer, eyes wide with disbelief, spoke first. "Admiral, it is a human ship!" A ripple of shock passed through the room. Humans had been irrelevant for so long, a forgotten footnote in the history of the galaxy. To see one here, boldly, unafraid, was unfathomable. "What are they doing here?" Varku growled, fury mixing with fear. "Send a message. Demand identification. And prepare the fleet for immediate deployment." Across the star system, on the barren surface of Kralis Prime, resistance cells watched the newcomer with a mixture of awe and disbelief. For years, these rebels had fought a losing battle against the Overlord's oppression. But the arrival of the Resolute, for that, was the ship's name, brought a flicker of hope, fragile yet fierce. Inside the Resolute's command deck, Commander Reese stood at the viewport, her sharp eyes scanning the ominous silhouette of the Kralis planet below. Her ship was alone in this hostile sector, far from any human allies. "We know what we're up against," she said quietly to her crew. "The Overlords have ruled by fear for too long. It's time that ends." Tension crackled through the ship like static electricity. No one aboard believed victory would be easy or guaranteed, but what united them was an unbreakable resolve. To fight, to endure, to spark the flame of rebellion. Outside, the stars seemed to hold their breath. The galaxy's darkest era was about to be challenged by a lone human battleship. And no one, not even the Overlords, knew what storm was coming. The silence that followed the Resolute's arrival was not peace. It was the calm before a storm. On the bridge of the Overlord flagship Dominus, alarms blared as fleets scrambled. to intercept the human ship. The Overlord commanders, clad in armored exoskeletons etched with war honors, barked orders with cold precision. They had never faced a foe like this, an unknown vessel, unyielding and unafraid, slipping into their most fortified orbit. Deploy interceptors, Admiral Varku commanded. Destroy the human ship before it disrupts our operations. Massive fighters burst from hangar bays, streaking toward the Resolute like predatory hawks. But the human crew was ready. Red alert. Target lock on incoming. Fighters! Lieutenant Kara called out, fingers dancing across the weapon console. Activating evasive thrusters now! The Resolute moved with uncanny agility for its size. Its hull, scarred by countless skirmishes, shimmered as it employed experimental cloaking bursts, flickering in and out of sensor range. The Overlord pilots found themselves chasing shadows. "Captain," the weapons officer said, voice tight with tension. "Our disruptor cannons are ready." Commander Reese's eyes narrowed. "Hold fire until they're within range. We're not here to play their game." But the Overlords pressed their attack, desperation mounting as their drones failed to pin down the Resolute. The human ship's technology was unlike anything the Overlords had encountered. Old-world ingenuity merged with bold innovation. "Incoming missile!" The comm officer shouted. Explosions rocked the hull, shaking the crew but failing to cripple them. Shields flared, humming with raw power drawn from the ship's unique energy core. "Return fire," Reese ordered. "Focus on the lead interceptor." The Resolute's disruptor beams lanced through space, cutting down fighters with surgical precision. One by one, the Overlord interceptors faltered, their formations breaking apart. In the chaos, a massive Overlord dreadnought loomed, its broadside, weapons locking on. "Brace for impact!" someone yelled. But instead of retreating, the Resolute charged forward. The crew held their breath as it closed the distance at impossible speed. Then came the salvo. A concentrated burst of plasma ripped through the dreadnought's shield, striking its reactor core. The massive ship shuddered violently, systems failing. As it spiraled out of control, its explosion painted the void with fire and debris. Cheers erupted on the Resolute bridge, but Commander Reese kept her gaze steady. "This is only the beginning," she said. Back on Dominus, Admiral Varku's fury boiled over. How? How did a single human ship destroy a dreadnought? "Unknown technology, my lord," his tactical officer replied grimly. "We must adapt, or we will lose." The Overlords hastily recalibrated their tactics, deploying heavier cruisers to flank the Resolute. But the humans were relentless. Inside the Resolute, the crew worked in seamless coordination, every man and woman a vital cog in the machine. Engineers recalibrated shields, technicians monitored enemy movements, and soldiers prepared boarding. "Pods, Captain," Lieutenant Kara reported. "The enemy fleet is regrouping. They'll attempt a blockade." Reese's jaw tightened. "Then we'll break it." A sudden jolt rocked the ship as enemy fire slammed into the aft section. Alarms blared, and sparks flew from damaged consoles. "Damage report," Reese demanded. "We've lost auxiliary power in Section 4, the chief engineer replied. "But main systems are stable." "Good. Maintain evasive maneuvers and prepare for a full assault." Suspense tightened like a noose around the crew as the Resolute surged forward, a lone flame defying the overwhelming darkness. Far below, on Kralis Prime, Resistance fighters watched the unfolding battle on hacked transmissions. Hearts pounded. This lone human ship was more than a symbol. It was a promise that the Overlords were not invincible, and the galaxy had begun to hope again. The battle had barely ended when a new threat emerged, one not from outside the Resolute, but from within. Commander Reese stood in the dimly lit command deck, her gaze sharp as ever. The ship hummed with nervous energy, the crew still catching their breath from the fierce engagement. They had survived against impossible odds, but the war was only beginning. "Captain," Lieutenant Kara approached, face pale beneath the dim red lighting. We've detected unauthorized access to our internal systems. Someone's been tampering with our ship's AI. Reese's eyes narrowed. A saboteur? Most likely. And not just any saboteur. An overlord operative. A cold silence fell over the room. The crew had trained for space battles and guerrilla tactics, but betrayal from within was a nightmare no one was prepared for. Lock down all non-essential areas, Reese ordered. Initiate a ship-wide security sweep. I want to know who's behind this, and fast. As the security team moved through the corridors, tension mounted. The Resolute had always relied on trust and camaraderie to survive. Now suspicion threatened to unravel everything. Below deck in the engineering bay, sparks flew as technicians repaired damaged systems. Chief Engineer Malik wiped grease from his brow, scanning data feeds. "Captain, I'm seeing anomalies in the quantum drive's calibration," he reported over comms. "Someone's trying to sabotage the jump sequences. If they succeed, we could be stranded or worse. Exposed." Reese clenched her fists. "Find out who's responsible." Meanwhile, in the ship's cramped brig, a shadowed figure sat quietly, eyes glowing faintly in the low light. An overlord spy captured during the battle, but silent and unmoving. Reese approached, voice cold. "Talk. What is your mission?" The alien's lips curled into a cruel smile. "Your defiance is amusing, but futile. The overlords will consume your rebellion, and you will die as all others have before you." Reese's jaw tightened. "We'll see about that." Back on the bridge, Lieutenant Kara's fingers flew over the console, piecing together fragments of intercepted transmissions. "Captain, the sabotage attempt started just before we entered orbit. Someone aboard has been feeding information to the overlords." "Who?" Reese demanded. Kara hesitated. "I'm tracing the signal, but the source is masked. Someone with deep access to our systems." Reese's mind raced. Could it be one of her own trusted officers? Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, indifferent to the turmoil aboard the Resolute. But the quiet of space was deceptive. Shadows moved unseen, secrets whispered in the dark. Suddenly, the ship's alarms blared again. "Incoming message encrypted." Reese activated the comm. The holographic projection flickered, revealing a coded symbol, the mark of the Human Resistance Command on Earth. "Commander Reese," the voice crackled. "We have confirmation. The overlords are preparing a massive offensive. Your actions have shaken their confidence, but time is running out." Reese's heart pounded. "What is the status of the quantum drive prototype?" "Stable, for now. But the sabotage must be stopped. You are humanity's spearhead. The galaxy looks to you." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving an uneasy silence. Reese turned to her crew. "We're not just fighting the overlords out there. We have enemies inside this ship. 2. Find them before they destroy us from within." The crew exchanged glances, the weight of the mission heavier than ever. In the shadows, the saboteur watched, calculating their next move. The Resolute was more than a battleship. It was a beacon of hope, but also a tinderbox ready to ignite. And the fight for the galaxy's future had become a deadly game of trust and betrayal. The Resolute drifted in the eerie stillness of space, far from the overlord's gaze, yet never truly safe. Commander Reese knew their fight was no longer just against a galactic empire. It was against time, trust, and the fragile threads holding the rebellion together. In the shadowed recesses of Kraly's Prime, resistance leaders gathered in secrecy. Holoscreens flickered with star maps and intercepted transmissions, the room tense with urgency. Among them was Vex, a grizzled alien warlord who had once crushed entire rebel cells with brutal efficiency. Now, reluctantly, he found himself allied with the humans. "Your ship's arrival has lit a fire we thought long dead," Vex growled, his many eyes reflecting the blue glow of the holoscreen. "But the overlords are not blind. They will strike first, strike hard. Then we strike harder, Reese responded, her voice steady yet fierce. This isn't just about survival, it's about shattering the chains. Yet, distrust simmered beneath the surface. Among the gathered factions, humans, alien rebels, and former overlord dissidents, old grudges festered. Decades of bloodshed and betrayal made alliance fragile. "Can we trust the humans?" whispered one resistance leader, a lithe, serpentine figure named Skara. "Their technology and tactics are unlike anything we have. What if this is a trap?" Reese met Skara's gaze, unflinching. "I don't expect blind trust, but I expect action." Meanwhile, aboard the Resolute, the hunt for the saboteur intensified. Suspicion twisted through the crew like a shadowy serpent. Every whispered conversation and sideways glance bred paranoia. Lieutenant Kara sat alone in the communications bay, analyzing data streams. A flicker caught her eye, an encrypted message buried deep within the ship's logs. The source was chillingly close. "Captain," Kara's voice was barely a whisper over the comm. "I found something. Someone on board has been leaking our coordinates and battle plans." Reese's stomach tightened. "Who?" Kara hesitated. "It looks like someone in engineering, but the signal's masked." Before Reese could respond, the ship's lights flickered violently. An explosion rocked the aft section. Smoke billowed as alarms blared throughout the vessel. "Sabotage!" Reese shouted, rushing to the scene with a squad of security officers. In the engineering bay, chaos reigned. Firefighters battled flames. Engineers frantically isolated damaged systems. Amid the smoke, a shadow darted, too fast to catch. "Get a perimeter," Reese ordered. "This ends now." Back in the Rebel Command Center on Kralis Prime, Vex's holocom beeped urgently. "The overlords are deploying a strike fleet," a young rebel reported. "They've uncovered our location." "Then we move," Vex growled. "The Resolute must break the blockade. We cannot let this flame die." As the rebels prepared to evacuate, Reese coordinated from the Resolute. "We'll create a distraction," she explained to her crew. "Draw their forces away. Then the resistance can escape." The plan was risky, almost suicidal, but necessary. Suspense mounted as the Resolute launched a squadron of fighters into the fray, weaving through enemy fire with calculated precision. The Overlord fleet surged forward, trapped between the human ship's defiant assault and the rebel fighters slipping away under cover. On the Resolute, tension was palpable. Each blast that rocked the ship was a reminder of the stakes. Every successful strike was a message. The Overlords were not invincible. In the midst of battle, Reese's comm crackled. "Captain, new intel from Earth. The Overlords are mobilizing a secret weapon, something ancient and terrifying." Reese's eyes hardened. "Then we must find it first." As the Resolute broke through the blockade, an uneasy victory settled over the crew. The Alliance had survived this clash, but for how long? Among the rebels, old wounds remained raw. Trust was earned with every breath, every shared risk. The galaxy's future balanced on a knife's edge, between hope and annihilation. And, far beyond the stars in dark chambers forgotten by time, something stirred. The game had only just begun. The Resolute had escaped the blockade, but its victory was hollow. The Overlord's secret weapon loomed like a shadow over every decision, every step forward. Commander Reese knew the galaxy's darkest secrets were waiting to be unearthed, and they might hold the key to either salvation or destruction. In the ship's war room, Reese stood before a star map dotted with ancient markers, remnants of a civilization lost to time. Their sensors had picked up faint signals from a derelict system in the outer rim, the ruins of Kareth, a world whispered about in legends. "According to intel from Earth," Reese began, "the Overlord's weapon may be connected to the Kareth relics. If we can find them first, we might stop whatever they're planning." Lieutenant Kara's fingers traced the star roots. It's a dangerous journey. That system is heavily mined and Overlord patrols are frequent. Reese nodded, steeling herself. We don't have a choice. Below deck, the crew prepared for the perilous jump. Engineers calibrated the quantum drive, while soldiers readied weapons and boarding gear. The tension was thick, but hope burned. Fiercely, this mission could turn the tide. As the Resolute slipped into the Kareth system, sensors pinged relentlessly. Hidden mines glowed faintly against the void, like deadly fireflies. The ship's shields flickered as they absorbed. Stray blasts! Hold steady, Reese ordered. Deploy drone scouts. We can't afford surprises. Through the viewport, the ruins of Kareth sprawled beneath them. Massive stone structures half buried beneath alien sands. Colossal statues frozen in eternal vigil. The remains of a civilization that had vanished eons ago. Lieutenant Kara scanned for energy signatures. There's a faint power source in the lower city ruins. It matches the Overlord's weapon patterns. The crew prepared to land, the atmosphere thick with anticipation and dread. On the surface, Reese led a small team through the ruins. The air was dry and heavy, the silence broken only by their footsteps and distant echoes. Stay alert, Reese warned. The Overlords won't be far behind. Suddenly, sensors flared, multiple signatures approaching fast. Overlord forces, Kara whispered. They've tracked us. Explosions erupted as blaster fire lit the ruins. The team took cover behind shattered pillars, exchanging fire with advancing Overlord troops. Reese's heart pounded as they fought deeper into the city's heart, toward the mysterious power source. In a cavernous chamber, they found it. An ancient device pulsing with eerie blue light, cables and glyphs glowing with forgotten energy. It's a power core, Kara breathed. But unlike anything we've seen, suddenly a shadow fell across the chamber, Admiral Varku flanked by elite Overlord guards. You should not have come here, Varku said coldly. This power belongs to the Overlords. Surrender, and you may yet live. Reese drew her weapon, voice steady. Never! A fierce battle erupted, energy blasts illuminating the chamber's vast stone walls. The ancient device hummed louder, reacting to the chaos. In the fight's chaos, Kara rushed to interface with the device, fingers flying over alien controls. Captain, I'm unlocking the core's systems, she said urgently. If we can harness this power. Suddenly, the device roared to life, sending shockwaves through the chamber. Stone cracked, glyphs flared, and a brilliant light engulfed them. When the glow faded, the chamber was transformed. Machines awoke, dormant guardians rising from slumber. The ancient weapon was no mere myth. It was alive, and it was awakening. Reese stared in awe and fear. The battle for the galaxy's future had entered a new, terrifying phase. The brilliant light from the ancient device faded, leaving the chamber bathed in an eerie blue glow. The air thrummed with raw energy, vibrating against the skin like a living heartbeat. The Resolute's crew stood frozen, faces pale as the ancient weapons stirred to life around them. Massive stone constructs, dormant for millennia, began to shift. Colossal. Sentinels adorned with glowing glyphs, their eyes flaring with electric fury. The legends had been true. This was no mere relic. It was a living defense system designed to protect Kareth's secrets at any cost. Retreat, Reese ordered, but it was too late. The Sentinels advanced, moving with deliberate power. Each step cracked the ancient floor, sending vibrations through the chamber. Their weapons, forged from unknown alloys, crackled with energy far beyond Overlord technology. Admiral Varku snarled, drawing his plasma blade. You've doomed us all. Humans! Reese's squad took cover behind broken pillars, exchanging fire with the advancing guardians. Bullets and plasma shots glanced off the Sentinel's armor like raindrops on steel. Kara scrambled to maintain control over the ancient device, desperation sharpening her focus. Captain, I'm trying to shut it down, but it's resisting, Almost. Like it's alive! Keep at it! Reese yelled, firing at an approaching sentinel trying to crush one of her soldiers. Outside, the rest of the Resolute crew monitored the escalating crisis. The ship was vulnerable, its systems strained, but there was no choice. Rescue was impossible until the team on Kareth survived or died. Back inside the chamber, the battle raged. Reese's soldiers fought with ferocity, but the sentinels were relentless. One by one, teammates fell beneath crushing blows or searing energy blasts. "Kara, any progress?" Reese shouted, dodging a sweeping energy strike. "Almost there! Just a few more seconds!" Suddenly, the ancient device pulsed, violently unleashing a shockwave that sent everyone staggering. Reese hit the ground hard, pain searing through her side. Through gritted teeth, she forced herself up, determined not to yield. The device emitted a piercing hum, then silence. The sentinels froze mid-motion. Slowly, their glowing eyes dimmed. The ancient weapon was dormant once more. "Status?" Reese gasped. Kara's voice came weak but triumphant. "I've shut it down for now, but it won't stay dormant long." Admiral Varku, panting and injured, glared fiercely. "You may have delayed the inevitable, but the overlords will rise again, and this time they will harness the weapon, fully." Reese met his gaze, fierce resolve burning in her eyes. "Then we'll be waiting." Back on the Resolute, the injured were tended to, and the crew regrouped, shaken but alive. The revelations about the ancient weapon shifted the war's stakes beyond anything they had imagined. "We need to secure that device," Reese said firmly. "If the overlords get it back online, they'll have power enough to crush the rebellion, and every free world." Kara nodded. "I've already started scanning for ways to contain or neutralize it, but it will take time." Reese glanced at the ruined city outside the ship's viewport. The galaxy was a battleground of ancient powers and ruthless empires. "Prepare for immediate departure," she ordered. "The overlords will come hunting." As the Resolute powered up, ready to jump back into the void, an encrypted message flickered onto the comm, its source unknown. Reese activated the feed. A distorted face appeared. Someone from her past. A voice she thought lost. "Commander Reese," the message hissed. "The war has only begun. Your enemies are not just the overlords. Be wary of those who walk in shadows." The feed cut out abruptly. Reese's heart tightened. The secrets aboard the Resolute and the galaxy were deeper and darker than she'd ever feared, and the fight for freedom had become a deadly game of shadows and trust. The cryptic message still echoed in Commander Reese's mind as the Resolute slipped through the void, leaving the shattered ruins of Kareth behind. The warning was clear. Enemies lurked not just outside, but within. In the ship's dimly lit corridors, whispers stirred. Trust frayed as suspicion crept in like a poison. Every glance became a question, every step a potential threat. Reese gathered her senior officers in the war room. The tension was thick. "We have to find out who sent that message and what they meant," Reese said. "Our crew's security is compromised." Lieutenant Kara's fingers danced over her console. "I've been tracking unusual data spikes. In our communications logs, someone has been transmitting in secret." Reese's eyes narrowed. "A spy?" Before Kara could answer, the room's lights flickered, then cut out entirely, plunging them into darkness. Emergency red lights hummed to life. "Power outage in Sector 7, Kara reported, voice tense. "Security cameras are offline." Reese grabbed her sidearm. "Lock down all sectors. No one moves without my say." The Resolute was under siege, not from external weapons but from sabotage. Security teams scoured the ship, but the saboteur was a ghost, slipping through shadows, leaving chaos in their wake. In the engineering bay, Chief Malik found his systems tampered with, critical components rerouted. "They're crippling our engines," he said grimly. "If we lose power completely, we're dead in space." Reese knew the stakes had never been higher. In the cramped crew quarters, whispers grew, louder. Some blamed the alien allies, others suspected humans. Old rivalries threatened to explode. "Commander," a junior officer approached nervously. "I think I found something." Reese followed him to a sealed compartment where encrypted data chips were hidden, chips containing detailed plans of the Resolute's systems and battle strategies. "Who would do this?" Reese muttered. Kara's voice crackled over the comm. "Captain, I traced the transmissions to a secure data terminal near the brig." Reese's jaw clenched. The brig was where the Overlord's spy was held captive. "Prepare a team," she ordered. "We're going to confront our ghost." In the dim confines of the brig, Reese faced the captive Overlord operative. His eyes gleamed with cold amusement. "You think you can stop the tide," he said. "But your ship is sinking beneath you, slowly, silently." Reese's fingers tightened on her sidearm. "Tell me who's helping you." He laughed. "Help? I have no allies here, only chaos." Suddenly the lights flickered, and a hidden panel slid open. From the shadows stepped a figure, a crew member long thought loyal, now revealed as the saboteur. Surprised, the traitor smiled, weapon drawn. Reese reacted instantly, diving for cover as shots rang out. The firefight was fierce and brutal, echoing through the narrow corridors. Kara coordinated security teams over the comm, sealing bulkheads and chasing down the saboteur's cohorts. In the chaos, Reese realized the saboteur's true plan: to cripple the Resolute just as the Overlords launched their next assault. With a desperate surge, Reese and her team cornered the traitor in the command deck. "Why?" Reese demanded, weapon trained. The saboteur's face twisted in bitterness. "You don't understand. The Overlords offer order in chaos. Your rebellion only leads to death." Reese's voice was steady. "We fight for freedom." The saboteur lunged, but Reese's shot disarmed them. They fell, defeated but defiant. As the ship's system stabilized, Reese breathed deeply. The enemy wasn't just the Overlords, it was fear, doubt, and betrayal, and the battle for the galaxy's soul was far from over. The Resolute surged through hyperspace, engines humming steady once more. The Overlord fleet was closing fast, a storm of dread and destruction looming on the horizon. But Commander Reese's resolve had never been stronger. The betrayal had nearly broken them from within, but it had also forged a new steel in their hearts. An unyielding fire to fight for freedom no matter the cost. In the war room, Reese addressed the weary crew, their faces a mix of exhaustion and fierce determination. "We've uncovered more than just weapons or fleets," Reese said. "We've uncovered hope. The Overlords fear what humanity represents: courage, unpredictability, and the will to defy tyranny." Lieutenant Kara stepped forward. "Our analysis shows the Overlord's secret weapon is powered by a central core hidden within their flagship, a fortress unlike any other." "Then that's where we go," Reese declared. "If we destroy their core, we cripple their power for good." The plan was daring: to infiltrate the flagship Obsidian Wrath, dodge its defenses, and strike at the heart of Overlord dominance. As the Resolute emerged from hyperspace, the colossal silhouette of the Obsidian Wrath loomed against the stars. A dark titan bristling with turrets and shield arrays. The battle erupted instantly. The Resolute wove through a hailstorm of plasma and missile fire, fighters engaging Overlord squadrons in deadly dogfights. Reese led the boarding party, descending onto the flagship's hull amid blaring alarms and chaotic battle. Inside, corridors burned with flickering lights, Overlord soldiers swarming to defend their last stronghold. The boarding team moved like shadows, evading patrols and disabling security systems. Every corner held danger. Every step tested their nerves. At the core chamber, they confronted Admiral Varku once more, wounded but relentless. "This ends now," Reese said, steeling herself. Varku's blade clashed against hers in a fierce duel, sparks flying as their weapons met. Around them, the core pulsed ominously, threatening to unleash devastation if disturbed. Kara hacked into the core's controls, racing against time. "Give me a minute," she called out, fingers flying. "Over alien consoles." Varku sneered. "You cannot stop the inevitable." But just as he lunged for a final strike, Reese's team surged forward, overwhelming him. Kara's interface beeped, core destabilizing. The chamber trembled as energy spiraled out of control. "Evacuate!" Reese ordered, dragging Varku's incapacitated form as alarms wailed. They burst out onto the Obsidian Wrath's hull just as the core exploded in a blinding storm of light and shock waves. The flagship shuddered, systems collapsing, its might unraveling. The Resolute blasted away, narrowly escaping the destruction. As the shockwave faded, the remaining Overlord fleet faltered, their command fractured. Across the galaxy, oppressed worlds rose up, inspired by the victory. The tide was turning. Back aboard the Resolute, Reese stood before her crew, the weight of sacrifice and hope heavy in her gaze. "We've shown the galaxy that even the darkest tyranny can be challenged by a single spark, a lone human battleship willing to fight for freedom." Suddenly, the ship's comm flickered on. A new message, encrypted and urgent. Reese activated it, heart racing. The face was familiar, the one who had warned her earlier, now clearer, older. "Commander Reese," the voice said, "the Overlords were but the beginning. Greater threats awaken in the shadows. Your fight is far from over." The feed cut. Reese's eyes burned with fierce determination. "We'll be ready." The galaxy's future was uncertain, dangerous, but alive, and humanity's light would never be extinguished.